Okay, I'm sharing my screen with you. And I'm back. I've done a number of cards in between the verb tenses because the verb tenses cards are pretty long. So I've done other things, but now I'm back. And I know I've shown this set of cards before as far as the Spanish rules when we're talking about the pretérito in español, and the uses. And I just want you to, just to refresh your memory, especially if you go by order of how I have the cards. I have the preterite, and then I have a whole bunch of other cards of other subject. And then now I'm back with the preterite. And here it's just talking about the common preterite markers. When you look at a sentence, sometimes markers can help you. Ayer, anoche, mañana, la semana pasada, el año pasado. Okay, you've seen that. Okay. And we talked about also how do you tell if it's the preterite or the imperfect, because the imperfect, we use it in English, but we don't really call it the imperfect. It's not as dominant as it is in Spanish. And the main question you have to ask yourself when you wanted to know, is this the imperfect or this the preterite? And especially in Spanish, because in Spanish they have entirely different endings. Sometimes they're entirely different words. Is for how long or when did the action take place? For how long did the action take place and when did the action take place? Like I said, this is in the other video. And then we looked at the difference between te quise versus te quería. And it doesn't mean the same thing. In English, it would be I loved you or I used to love you. And in English, unless you go into English and you make it deeper than what sometimes it really is, you really think, well, that means the same thing. Where in Spanish, it doesn't mean the same thing at all. We talked about that. Then we also talked about where in Spanish, the preterite or pretérito only means past. So when something is in a pretérito, it means that it's in the past. It started in the past, it happened in the past, and it ended in the past. Where in English, the preterite, a word that we don't use that much, is the name of a particular verb tense. It does not mean the past. So it has different, even though it looks like these are cognates, in reality, at least grammatically speaking, they have different meanings. Okay. And then we talked about the difference between fue maestro versus era maestro. And in English, it would be, the idea would be that he was a teacher, fue maestro. He was a teacher, but he's not a teacher anymore. Where era maestro, we haven't talked about the imperfect, but era maestro is the imperfect of the verb to be, ser. It was when you're talking now about him, you're saying he was a teacher. You are not talking about whether he still is a teacher or not. Versus fue maestro, he's a teacher. He was a teacher, but he's no longer a teacher. So one is saying that the action happened in the past. It was during the past, it ended in the past, and it no longer is. Where era maestro, the emphasis is on the fact that he was a teacher, but you're not saying or stating that he's no longer a teacher. Se enojó, he was angry, but he's not angry anymore. Versus se enojaba is the imperfect tense. You're saying that he was angry, and he still may be. The last time I talked to him, he was angry, right? And he still may be angry. Okay. Also, now this is new. This is new. Preterite indicative uses. refers to a fixed point of time in the past, even if the time is only implied rather than stated directly or directly stated. Me habló anoche. Well, anoche means last night. So he talked to me last night, or he called me. It depends on how you translate hablar, because it could mean he called me, me llamó, or me habló anoche, right? But last night is over. So it's something that happened in the past and ended in the past. So anoche tells you that the action is over because it's not still anoche. Fui al cine la semana pasada. Well, last week is over. So it's an action that is definitely finished. Last week, I went to the movies. Okay, so the preterite in Spanish, which is preterito, means past, it's over, the action is finished. That is not true with the imperfect, because the imperfect means, perfect means the action is finished. Imperfect means there, it means not. But we'll look at the imperfect a little bit later. But sometimes in order to teach one tense in Spanish, you have to really begin to introduce another tense, even though you don't teach it completely until later, I should say. So I'm going to try, there we go, there we are. Okay, the preterite refers to a particular past action performed, as stated, or a particular number of times. Okay, so te llamé 5 veces. I called you, te llamé 5 veces. I called you 5 times. So the particular number of times that I called you is stated. Leí 10 libros. It's over. I read 10 books. Comiste 2 tacos. I wanted to say taquitos, tacos. That's not I ate 2 tacos. Excuse me. That should be you ate 2 tacos, because comí 2 tacos would be I ate 2 tacos, right? Comiste, that's the preterite of the verb comer, so that's a mistake. That's a preterite of the verb comer. So it's comí, comiste, comió, comimos, comieron. So that's a mistake. It should be comí 2 tacos. I'll have to change that. All right. Preterite refers to specific past actions during specific amount of time. Viví allí por 2 años. I lived there for 2 years. It's telling you the particular, for how long the action. Remember, for when and for how long. So this is for how long. I lived there for 2 years, but those 2 years are over. The important part of the preterite is that it's the past, because in Spanish, pretérito means it's over. Trabajaron por 10 horas. They worked for 10 hours. They're not still working. The 10 hours are over. El programa duró 5 horas. The program lasted for 5 hours. Remember, the preterite or the pretérito in Spanish is the action began in the past and it ended in the past. It's the past. That's why somebody says, ya te quise, which means I loved you. It's over. Because it began in the past, it was during the past, and it ended in the past. Versus te quería means I loved you, but the emphasis is not on the fact that it's over. The emphasis is on the fact that I loved you. So I still may love you. All right. Refers to an implied past action during a specified period of time. Okay. Escribí una carta. I wrote a letter. Now you don't have to say last night or yesterday, anoche, ayer, but that's implied. Estuvo aburrida durante la junta. No, la junta, sorry, thinking in English. Estuvo aburrida la junta. Here, the reason that I had a slight brain freeze is that sometimes you can put the subject at the end in Spanish. So, estuvo aburrida la junta. In English, you would say, la junta estuvo aburrida. You can say that in Spanish too. You don't have to, you can put the subject in the beginning of the sentence or at the end. But what it says from the beginning to the to end, or the meeting was boring. So that's what you're saying. The meeting is boring. But from the beginning to the end, and it did end, the meeting was boring. Ayer vendí tu casa. Yesterday, I sold your house. Yesterday means the action is over. And that's the emphasis in Spanish, that the action is over. And the reason I keep emphasizing that fact, because there's another past tense called the imperfect, where the emphasis is not on the fact that it's over. The emphasis is on the fact of the action. Let's see. I'm going to come back because this is running a lot long. I was going to say a little long, a lot long. So we're going to come back. I'm going to come back with looking at the preterito in Spanish or the preterite. But the reason I keep hesitating, because the preterite in English and the preterite in Spanish, they don't mean the same thing and they're not used in the same way. So I forgot to introduce myself, Coralla Ficklin McLean. Welcome, WYLCOME, welcome.com. Okay, we are continuing looking at the preterite or the preterito in Spanish. It's a form of a past tense in Spanish, but in Spanish, there are past tense. There are basically, when you're talking about past, there are two. There's the preterite and the imperfect. And it's not the same in English as in Spanish. And a lot of English speakers have a hard time being able to distinguish the two, because we don't think in the same way when we're thinking about the past. They think about it differently in Spanish. A Spanish speaker thinks about it differently than an English speaker. So thank you for coming to my platform or to my video, wherever you're seeing this, thank you. And I hope I'm making it clear, but I'll be back with the preterite because we haven't done all the cards yet. So thank you. And you have a good day. Bye-bye.